Welcome to another episode of On the Path, a series where we talk about anything and everything that gets you to the path that you want to be on, for Amtgard and beyond, getting you to your belt path and to the next one. On this episode, we are investigating what is needed to create a welcoming and conducive environment for the new belt path, Battlemaster. All right, so this is another episode of On the Path, not Paragon Path, because we're talking about more than just Paragon HUD. And we're talking about kind of like the back end side of Battle Knight, where we have to think about what kind of events we need to run, what we need to do as game designers, game runners, autocrats, warcrats, champions, to make sure that this knighthood has the opportunity to grow and not put dampers on like everyday park games or every single battle game on a kingdom level. Because that's one of the concerns is toxicity, but making sure that we have spaces specifically for this thing, like high-level tournaments for fighters or high-level ANS tournaments for crafters. We need to create high-level battle games, I guess is the right terminology for that, or high competitive battle games for our Battle Knights coming up. So that's what we're going to discuss here. And the two guests I have on are both autocrats, at various, both at kingdom levels and plus, I think both of you have been kingdom champion before. I've
never held an office.
Magnus has also been on the Keep Securocrat team, which is the same as playing Keep away from a child. So,
yeah, interesting times.
We've got some people here that are gonna be able to give us some more insight on this, especially from a larger standpoint, because that's kind of what we're gonna focus on. So, Magnus, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, sure. Sir Magnus Heartseeker, started playing Amtgard in 2007. Have run many events. I've ran several AutoCAD, several GACs. Also have autocrated Keep on the Borderlands twice. I was a War Master for another Keep. And then, as I said, also security Keep here and there. Along with that, also was part of the original proposal back in 2019 that led to the 2020 proposal that Crix and I had made for the original Battle Game Knighthood, which then went to the awards committee. And it was also part of the awards committee that brought Battle Game Knighthood into being, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I say part of it because it was really Amtgard, speaking that they wanted that truly brought it. But yes, that's me.
Yeah.
Yay.
And Teflon.
I'm Teflon Frosthammer. I'm one of the hosts for the Whack podcast. I've done Kingdom Champion for Winter's Edge a couple times, I think, while it's Kingdom, several times while it was Principality, and then I've done a lot. I've done a few like one-day Warcrat type stuff that's kind of been on my own, or like my finding company has hosted or something along those lines. So I've done a little bit of game design and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm going to give my credits because I can do that. I was co-warcrat for Keep on the Borderlands 2019 under Q-Ball. I've been questocrat at Dungeon Day in Polaris, which is a full day of just a straight linear quest in a kind of dungeony area. I'm autocrat of the upcoming event in May for Polaris, and I just got out of Kingdom Prime Minister for almost 2 years, so I've seen a lot of the background stuff. But we're going to talk about why, from various standpoints, we need and what we can do to kind of make this new knighthood flourish without causing problems. Because this is my opinion, I don't think we want potential battle game knights going 100% all the time at every single battle game. That seems like we're going to run into the same problem of what people are concerned is that toxicity is going to take over and people aren't going to want to play our battle games. But we also at the same time don't want to create an environment where they're not allowed to be competitive. And I think we need to talk about the spaces that are going to work best for that environment. Where do you guys think we should start building? We'll even go low, like the first three orders of the battle are kind of things you can kind of do on a regular basis at Park. They're fairly straightforward. They're just consistently playing your class, consistently using your abilities, being mindful of what the objective is. Those are all pretty basic. Those you can do with anything else. But once you start going 4, 5, 6, 7, you start having to be a menace on the field almost. That you're making an actual difference on a consistent basis. I think it's 5 you have to do consistency. Is that right, Magnus?
For
Five,
fifth?
yes. 5
Yes.
is consistent.
Yep.
Like tactical use of your abilities or tactical run through. We should pull it up.
Bring it up real quick.
Yeah.
Like smart people, we should do that. Also, if you don't know a lot about the Battle Game Night, go watch WAC's Battle Game Night discussion. They run through the whole list and they do a really good job. It will give you pretty much all the insight you need on how to get from 1 to 10 and where they think that fits on like kingdom levels, what you're doing, how to do something. And it'll definitely give you an insight into what you need to do.
Yeah. So consistency does happen from 3rd to 4th. 3rd is restoring intermediate battle game skills, like effectively using your abilities to capture and defend objectives in battle games, leading small units effectively during a battle game, or class battlefield prowess. And 4th is for showing consistency in those skills.
Okay,
so you didn't just successfully use your abilities to defend or capture an objective in a few battle games. You're doing it in a majority of your battle games. You're consistently showing that level of skill.
Yeah, and that's 3 to 5 is barony level, which
3 is Shire, and then 4 and 5 are
4
barony.
and 5. Okay.
Even 6 is barony.
I don't know about Winter's Edge, but Polaris's baronies are often closer to probably 5v5 to 12 or 15v15 for the larger battle games. What are Winter's Edge baronies normally like?
It kind of varies a little, but that's pretty close to average, I think, for us. Ours is probably a little lower on the upper end of it, closer to the probably 8 or 9 v8 or 9 rather than the 12 or 15.
Okay. So when we're looking at from just a Park barony champion position, are there things we can probably start looking for or doing to make sure that these battle knights have the opportunity to start rising through the ranks and not be hyper competitive every single time?
You want to go first?
go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So for FL, we're just talking like 1 through 3. You said, right?
1 through 3 I think is going to happen regardless of whichever Park you're at, because it's pretty standard use of your class. If you start using your class well, you're fine.
Yeah. So what numbers are you looking at again?
Let's look at 4, 5, and 6.
Okay. Yeah. So for 4, 5, and 6, 4th and 5th. 4th is when you're showing your intermediate skills. 5th is when you're starting to show advanced skills, like you're swaying the momentum of the battle, and still using your abilities to capture and defend multiple objectives, leading multiple small units in battle games to victory, stuff like that. And 6 is also showing that consistently.
Mm-hmm.
I think at a Park level where it's barony or higher for those, a lot of your everyday battle games that are already being ran, like if you're running a capture the flag or a node capture or a very heavy object game, even in some cases, even like a mutual annihilation in some cases can be enough to kind of show that level of prowess. And a lot of it just comes down to actually keeping an eye out and recognizing that your players are doing these things. I would say having more games that have an objective more so than mutual annihilation will show this a little bit more, but for these levels, mutual annihilation battle games can also, shatter battles. Could still be an effective way to show people swaying the momentum of battle or something like that, because you could be in an engagement and somebody could hit the right spell or crowd control the right person at the right time, which then gives your team the edge to start pushing and then winning that engagement. And maybe you guys are down some, and now that brought you up to a tie. And if you're consistently do it, you manage to maybe even do it again in the same battle, and now your team is winning. So I can see that being a way to kind of show that in these games. That's kind of how I feel on it.
Mm-hmm. Teflon?
I agree for the most part. I think that using multi-objective games is going to have a better effect for those trying to show consistency, because they're going to be able to attack and defend multiple points over the time of the battle game. So you're going to see that push and pull more often. And so you can say throughout one singular battle game, you see this one person constantly challenging the zones and constantly moving the zones in their favor or holding off a big push or something like that. You're going to see them do that more often and allow you to see that person be consistent with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like a single objective, maybe it's not as easy to see it. It just kind of depends on how the game's set up. But I also agree that the normal games being played on a day-to-day basis are typically the kind of easy to put together objective heavy games, because like CTF and node capture and things like those. So I think on a local level, on Barony and lower, it's going to be very easy to figure out, who's doing consistent work or starting to show advance from intermediate and things like that. So I think that we're probably fine there. The big thing will be attitude on field to control, and I think that's going to be up to your champion and Reeves at that point, whoever's doing briefing for your field at that time, to help keep that culture of like good competitive play with good attitude, rather than being like challenging the Reeves on every call or being disruptive or something along those lines.
Right. So in this kind of context where currently it doesn't really matter if your kingdom has decided to go through a backlog of people that they think need to get these awards, or if everyone's building up from the beginning, there's going to be a certain point where we start seeing the people that should be at 7, 8, or 9 are going to keep doing their kind of basic level things, and we've got to start watching for those people rising. And I think we also have to give the people that are at those Paragon levels plus, they need to kind of give the opportunities for the lowers to start being able to do everything. I don't want to call that toxicity of like a player is good so they consistently play well. That's not toxic. That's just playing. But I think especially as we start rising through the ranks, we're going to have to be aware that our fields are our fields. And if you're always running the objective, you're always scoring that point, it might be a chance at a lower level park to take a step back and let somebody else possibly get that point. I think it would also show a lot more advanced tactician ability, advanced tactical ability, if you are able to step back and still control the battlefield. I know not every class can do that, but it is an opportunity that if you're not running the show, or you're not like leading the show, you can still run the show from behind the scenes. You can still be the stage manager while the show's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I think another good point to bring up, and this is going to apply to every level of battle gaming, is making sure that there's balance. I'm sure each and every one of us have been in a battle game, whether it's at park level, kingdom level, inter-kingdom level, where the scales have been just wildly different, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say we are at Crimson Circle, and Merrick, you and Jay and Morpheus all decide to show up as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we take, like, the three of you, myself, and Cena's in here, I'll pick on him. And we put him on the same team, too. And, the other team has a few other higher end, like a couple other higher end, but let's say that when you started thinking of people who are, like, more experienced in battle games, like, let's just say that 70% or even like 70 or 80% of like the higher end battle gaming people who are good at battle gaming are on one side, and the other side has not that many people. You can sometimes look at a battle game lineup and know who's going to win just when you look across the field and be like, oh, I'm going to win or lose this. And I think team balance is going to be one thing to kind of help decide that. And help rein in the potential for people getting upset during battle games. I mean, that's it overall too.
Yes.
But also help to allow people to shine, because those strong people, they can stomp on those people all day long and look great, but
right.
Yes, because all the good people are there.
Well, also, like, it gives the team who is kind of the underdog team a chance to shine as well, where they may not win, because this award system was not set up to be a win system. This was to show prowess system, right?
Yes.
So if that losing team is still showing a competitive edge, and it's because of leadership of someone or multiple people on the other team, or through the actual battlefield prowess of a singular person, or singular multiple people, if that makes sense, on the other team, then that is also something to pay a lot of attention to as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think
another thing. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go.
Oh, I think another good thing to recognize with this as well, because I know a lot of people might start focusing on who was scoring the objectives, or who was getting these points, or who was there when this happened. I know, Merrick, I already showed you the video today.
Yeah.
Of there's a video that one of our players members, Hazel, had recorded, and it is me. It's focusing on the whole battle, but you see me run out, hauling ass with this flag, like just getting the heck out of this zone to go and score a point. And yeah, I thank God for Barkskin too, because I took a hit. You see a throw, he hit me square on, and I'm like, yes, Barkskin. But I was like, yes, I'm running away and I'm escaping. I managed to score the point. But the reason I scored that point is because another one of our players, Vitalin, he was playing a paladin, and in his 4 points of armor, dives the hell into the entire rest of that team and locks them down while they just beat him down and kill him. So I get away, and then they go running off after me, but he stopped them for enough time for me to go and score a point. So I mean, I think that's a thing as well, is to just make sure there's people that are watchful of things like that too, because there's plenty of ways to contribute without being the star that scores the points. And I think that can be another way where more advanced players can still kind of shine and do their work, while letting players that are up and coming still be like helping out and scoring the points and stuff like that, while still playing a very active role in a class battle game.
Yeah, this is gonna require a lot of watchfulness from everyone that is got any battle game experience at all, basically, to keep an eye out for anything that happens and try to figure out why it happened, so we can figure out who did what and where they should be awarded, if they should be awarded at all.
I think your Reeves are going to be one of the most valuable people if you allow them to be. And this may be a cultural thing of your champion, if they're not Reeving, going to the Reeves and asking, hey, did you see, something that was worthy of whatever award, or maybe, hey, what kind of things happened that were like key plays or something like that.
Yep.
Having some sort of observe and report kind of system, although I hate really putting it in that direction in a way, but
if you see something, say something.
Yeah, right. Like, but it just comes down to the general thing in Amtgard that we need to recommend people more often, and this is another way to facilitate that in some ways, right?
Yeah, I almost want to give, like, if I'm running and I have an event coming up in May, I think I'm going to request my Warcrat, Charlie, to have all of the Reeves and people running battle games just have a notebook on them, and if they see something, write down the name. Just so
I'll have to put that in my budget for battle games.
Our budget dropped a lot. Our site went from $5,000 to $2,000. We are way better than we were on my last budget. We can afford notebooks.
Yes.
So, but
there's a lot of times that you see something and you're like, that was cool, and then you move on and you forget about it. And I think we need to actively keep writing people's names down. And the notebook thing is, I'm wholesale stealing from Sir Zyke McNasty, who just had a notebook. He'd walk around, he'd ask for people if they were available to do something. When they went and did something, he just had their name down in a notebook. And at the end of the event, he had 7 or 8 pages of like, hey, this person helped take out trash, this person helped go over here, this person helped in the kitchen when they were short staffed, and he just had that whole thing, and award recs went great because you had them right there.
You'd have somebody as a scribe going around, almost make it like a role.
I want to shout out Clover, because what he's been doing is a IOU kind of system. So he's taking the notebook approach, right, as Monarch. And anytime he sees something, he'll write it down in the notebook. And at the end of the day, he'll be like, okay, cool, I owe you a first order of the owl or a 5th order of the whatever and things like that. And then we'll get the details for the actual award to send out later on. But it kind of makes sure that he's giving these awards out and making sure he doesn't forget them and things like this. So I think that a notebook thing is really good and a good way to keep it, I guess, fresh and in your memory. And then you have the log right there as well. It's just one more step for work for our volunteers, which is annoying in a way, but it's probably better in the long run.
I mean, I'd rather over award than under award because we forgot.
Oh no, it's not that. It's that just one more thing for the volunteers to have.
Yeah, it's a lot of. I mean, part of that I think we can treat our volunteers better and make sure we award them as well. Because if they're taking down notes, they were obviously doing something. So it would be like, whose notebook is this? Great. Like Torgan wrote down 30 people's names because he was a monster and he watched a bunch of stuff. Great. Torgan was watching.
I really think this does fall into like a similar vein of like how Reeves are usually the primary people who recommend people for Griffins in tournaments. It's very similar in this regard, and I think a Reeves word for battle game Reeves should be taken, with the same level of weight as they would recommending Griffins. And on that same note, like in tournaments where players that are actively in those tournaments should be, at least I know I do, recommending their fellow people that they're fighting for Griffins as well. And I think we can evolve that kind of culture in Amtgard as a whole to be like, hey, there's no problem going to somebody and saying, I saw a person do awesome thing, whether it be a Reeve on the field to make sure that they write it down, or going directly to the Monarch and being like, man, Mirik really went here and he locked down this whole side of the team with a bunch of awes because Bard. And and that gave us the opening to get through. If it weren't for him, like, we don't know where we'd be. Like, going out and even just telling your Monarch, but I think there has to be like a level of being comfortable doing that too.
Yeah. It's like one. Well, no, it's not. It's a lot of people have, I think, hesitation about telling the Monarch what they think the person should get because they either feel like they don't have the same experiences as the Monarch or they don't have the level of experience to comment on what it is. That doesn't matter. Just tell them what happened and that you think it fits into X thing, and they'll figure it out. That's part of the Monarch's job. Like,
exactly.
Their job is to go figure out awards.
Like, let's say... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go.
All right. So Winners Edge is trying to work on the taboo of recommending yourself as well as like your directly related friends and stuff like that. So belt lines or fighting companies and stuff like that. So I think that also can play into it, is make sure you're recommending your friends and also those who are not as close to you. If you see somebody who is not in affiliation with you in any way, shape, or form, make sure you're putting those in too, because I think overall, if you're doing everybody, your recommendations may be taken more seriously and things like that as well.
It's I think Polaris is also working on that, the self-advocacy thing. If you do something, make sure people know about it. Like, I am not afraid to ask why I didn't get an award instead of like, I would like X award, please give it to me. I'd rather ask, hey, I feel like I was around this area. This is what I didn't, this is why I think I should be in this area. Is there a reason that I missed that mark? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. We have to start we have to start valuing ourselves, essentially, is what that comes down to. And sometimes, especially in these events, when we're doing battle game night, we're starting to get different things happening. Sometimes you and 2 other people might be the only people that know what you did, because everyone else was either dead or turned away or whatever. So making sure people know what happened, and maybe if it is 2 other people, just be like, hey, I'm gonna go tell the Monarch that I thought my play was really cool. If you guys agree, please go do that as well. We've got to advocate for ourselves, because especially once we start to get a bigger, I mean, right now we're talking about like barony and shire size. That's not terribly large, but we start moving into duchy, grand duchy, kingdom level, inner kingdom level battle games. There are hundreds of people on the field. There is no way everyone's going to see everything. Like,
no, not at all.
We'd have 100. We'd have an army of Reeves to watch the 2 smaller armies than the army of Reeves in order for that to work, which is never going to happen.
Again, this is why I think that Champion and Reeves have a large role to play here, because you definitely want to bother your Monarch as much as you can for recommendations and stuff, right? But at the same time, trying to establish a system that brings everything to the Monarch, so that they don't have a line of 100 people standing in front of them after the battle game, is probably a good idea as well.
And with that example I used for Merrick, like holding down a side, awing a whole group out, stuff like that. Like you said, if you don't know what award level somebody's at, you can just say that, and then the Monarch can look and be like, "Oh, Merrick's only at 3 orders of this. Yeah, that's worth a 4th."
Right.
Or let's say Merrick's at a 7th, and it's like, well, we're looking for more continued efforts. And let's say you recently just got your 7th, and this is the first event since you got it, and hey, you're showing some consistency already, but now you want to see it a little bit more and more. But at least then that Monarch knows you're already on your way up to, you're still progressing.
Right.
We can't hand out any 7.25 or 7.5 awards, but they're still going to show, it's still showing that you're progressing in that regard, which that's a good thing to have. And you made me just think of a whole nother idea, at least for Kingdom of Battle games, with the whole 100 people can't see everything.
True. Do you want to talk about it now?
Yeah, sure, why not? Maybe make an OCRAT position that is, call it something cool like the Watcher or Observer or something. Get like a 1 or 2 person team that will have very good video and record these battle games, so you have at least 2 different angles or 2 different areas being watched. And then you post into the Kingdom page, everybody can view it, and you see cool stuff, you call it out and say, hey, this is a cool play.
I would love to be able to include, like, hey, somebody that has a video camera, here's $100. Just video as much, or take as many photos as possible, whatever. Just do it. Like, that's not that much money. That's also not that much money for their time. Like, considering professional photographers charge a lot of money for their time, and they should, because it's very hard.
Yep.
But like, I would love to be able to hand that out and just be like, hey, take photos, take video. Like, Hogman, if you're listening to this, I will pay you like $200 to just come up and videotape at a whole event. Like, please.
That would be awesome. Anyone can do it though. Like, it doesn't have to be this thing, right? Like, we all have a phone just about, right? So like, everyone can take video of something who's watching.
Yeah.
So these things are more accessible than I think people realize.
Yes. Taking the video is going to make it's going to make situations like what Magnus talked about earlier with Vitalin. Those are going to become very obvious to us when we witness, like, oh, Charlie ran past with the flag. Oh, Vitalin just took on 9 guys. He didn't win, but he stopped 9 guys from going after Charlie. That's there we go. We'll see that continuation. I think what we also can do. Sorry, I'm trying to mute someone real quick. There we go. I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. So if we've kind of talked about this on a barony shire level, where it's a lot of, if you see something, say something. The champion and the Reeves are going to be important. Once we start bumping up into duchy, and duchy means different things in different kingdoms. Depending where you're from, it's between 30 to 50, upwards of 60 required people for a duchy. That's a big battlefield. see something, say something, I think is going to carry over a lot.
Absolutely.
But I think we also have to try. I think the Reeves are just going to become more important. Like,
Well, your team too, right? Like
Mhm.
at this point, you're looking at having the possibility of putting several groups, several small groups out, and having like quote unquote one leader who's like organizing the groups and stuff like that, and trying to get information between them. So we're starting to see the larger group aspect of the battlefield commander position that's on
Mhm.
the award too on this point. So again, like this is going to come down to, I think, objectives, how it's based on it, and things like this. But I don't want to really harp too much on purely objective based games, because there are quest type games and stuff like that that happen. And I don't know the true answer to this, because I think there's going to be some debate about it. But I feel like those are still going to be something we should take into consideration. So, like if you're doing a quest and you've got a guy who's organizing two different groups of like 5 people to get this objective in a quest, like a puzzle done or something like that, that's still commanding people in some form or fashion, right?
Mhm.
So it's something to maybe push onto consistency, but maybe not necessarily like advanced battle game skills. But I'm definitely open for that conversation to be a thing as well, you know.
You're right. Well, I mean, okay, so I think in quests there is, depending how they're written, there are opportunities for advanced level battle games tactics. They're very hard to come by unless you specifically build towards it. I almost think the planning of of your team, your spell list, and everything like that is a better indicator than what you do in the dungeon almost, because
It certainly can be, that's for sure.
yeah, like preparing for the dungeon. Like if you like Magnus ran Dungeon Day, oh god, what was it, 2017?
2017 or 2018.
One of the two. He ran a Harry Potter one that had a completely different magic system. We had to pick and choose spell lists and be very different.
There's no class ashes.
Yeah, if you didn't prep for that dungeon, you were going in terrible. Like you were walking in blind with a stick and hoping that you had purchased the right stuff potentially.
Which, disclaimer, I handed out that list for people to give like months ahead of time.
Oh yeah, no. There were like 3 or 4 times. There was one day at Frostlands and one day at CC that we were allowed to test lists within class games or within class games at that park. So this was not like a you're walking in blind thing. This was we're preparing you. You have the opportunity. If you missed all of that and didn't pay attention to it, I'm pretty sure you still had all of that information available at Dungeon Day, so you could write up a list right then and there and have it ready to go. But I think that speaks to the preparation of a higher level Battlemaster or level order of battle than what you will see live in the dungeon almost.
Yeah. Except for the final fight was like a no holds barred. Like team got to the team of the final people to fight also had a point buy system that they were working with to make their own lists, and it was a team of people all working together to make sure that they had everything. And then the leads, whether it was the Minister of Magic that was Cads, or the or Voldemort who was Haj. They got some extra points. They got, I think it was like 36 or 38 points out of the build. They got more points than other people did, so they're even stronger.
It essentially turned the last like big boss fight into a PvP fight because you were facing player level characters of similar or higher skill level. I mean, Haj and Cads are both Paragon wizards, and they're very good at what they do. So that level of fight was interesting, and I think if you build the dungeon correctly, you can argue for, I'd say, up to 6, maybe 7s. But 7s require consistency, if I remember correctly.
I think it would determine how many orders you are going in as well.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think the quests, the quest-like events or quest-like battle games and quests themselves could lead towards a potential higher order. We're just going to have to build around that. How do we build How do you guys think we should build dungeons that are viable to hand out those kind of awards?
So, for me on that, for dungeons specifically, the player's dungeon day is usually a combination of roleplay, puzzles, and battling.
Yes.
So it's going to be a very difficult thing to do in some of those situations because roleplay is not part of this award. Roleplay is a performance, and you should be rewarded dragons accordingly for high roleplay performance. Puzzles is you don't really have a thing for solving puzzles. Can't roleplay your way through a puzzle. You can't fight your way through a puzzle. You gotta sleuth your way through a puzzle. But for the battle portions of it, a cool thing that you can do with that is make sure that you have a hard scenario for players, and fight at that accordingly. One way that you can do that is have a high skill cap team or a team that has a little bit more advantage in their area, and as one of the guides, you can kind of come up ahead of time and let them know what team they're fighting. And if they're all higher level fighters, they should be able to gauge accordingly. So if you have a lot of newer players, you can gauge that, and they'll fight at a lower level. The newer players are going to win, but they can still adequately show that they have those skills. But if there's like a stacked team going in there, that's like, yeah, we're here to power game, win, kill, 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 everything dies. All right, then that team should have enough skill, like enough of a skill on that side for like those encounters to be able to throw everything they've got at that team. And if they manage to beat that, and there's a few battles like that throughout that they have to get their way through, that might be a good way to show it as well. I mean, on that one team at the final battle of Harry Potter, I gave Luna a ridiculous ability, which was unlimited elemental barrage. Didn't have to say anything. You just got spell balls and you threw it. You get to pick spell balls off the ground and still throw it. You just keep hucking things at people repeatedly until they're either dead or you're dead, and that's all you gotta do. And you just say the name of the spell and just keep hucking, and it was pretty effective.
Yeah,
it was a crazy boss monster, and it was a boss monster that was pretty much an elemental barrage wizard that was at even a slightly higher skill because you can pick things off the ground and not lose the spell. You just keep going. And I think that battle for some of those higher end teams at the finale was a difficult fight, a hard fought fight even, and I could see that going as well. So the TLDR, make sure that your players in those combat encounters are skilled enough to be able to allow those other players to shine through, by both teams giving it their all. And also being able to bring their skill down enough that those up-and-coming players can still shine as well and perhaps show some abilities to earn their next level.
Yeah. I know... crap. When Broton ran the WoW reign, and each park had to run their own dungeon, I had...
That was fun.
I believe it was you, Vitalin, and it might have been Cairo. It was the last battle for a park level was like 3 Paragons ready to wreck your face. And I know that all of the guides that went through that, when they came in, they had assigned each team going through a difficulty level of 1 to 3. 3 was go all out. 2 was they're okay. 1 is these are babies, please don't hurt them.
Yep.
That seemed to go really well. I think that's an easy thing that we can integrate. I think at Kingdom level, you're probably going to have a much larger system than just like great, bad, whatever. You'll figure it out. Okay, so this enters a little bit of a conundrum for me. If you are picking better battle gamers, are we then kind of asking those better battle gamers to take the opportunity of them potentially getting an award and replacing it with a dragon for role playing or a rose for volunteering with that event when they could be getting a Battlemaster? Does that make sense?
Technically yes.
Okay.
you are, and you are right on that. Just to most degrees, because I mean, they could be pulling off expert level plays the whole entire time, and maybe even beating down some players that are at lower skill. There might be a skill gap between that. And now you're making a dungeon that might be too difficult. So they have to kind of tone it down a bit. But it is one event. I know that we don't have that many events. I mean, most kingdoms hold 4 events a year. So it is asking a lot out of that player. But that could be something seen as being recognized as you start reaching that masterhood level and masterhood into even knighthood beyond, because you're providing service, you're volunteering, and you're doing things to help grow and give back to your community as well. So I don't see it as a negative either. I'd say it's more of a neutral. But yes, it would probably slow down your progression if your goal is to go from 1 to 10 as fast as possible.
Yeah, make that sprint. What's your opinion, Stefan?
I don't like trying to handcuff game design too much. But that being said, I think looking at, again, there are points, I don't remember the exact ones, I may need to look them up, but it's like leading small teams or leading larger teams, stuff like that. That is part of the Battlemaster thing. And I think that like a escape room type dungeon part of it could be seen as a way to effectively lead a team through an encounter that is a non-combat aspect of it, but it's still a battle game sort of, because it's a quest. This is where things kind of blur the lines as possibilities to showcase things, especially if they end up using any kind of class skill creatively to solve these dungeons and things like that. I think that's something to look at individual prowess to some degree as well, because of the creative use of skills, of abilities and things. I do like the formula that you have, because you try to get everybody's interest piqued by doing the kind of puzzle, the role play aspect, and then a true battle part in the dungeon. I think these are like good generic design points for a dungeon. And the battle part of it definitely provides room for these awards. But again, I think this is where I kind of get stuck on like how many people are in the dungeon, what's going on, and things like this. And I just keep coming back to like Champion and Reeves in those positions and their recommendations going to Monarch for these things. Because what it comes down to some degree, right? Like, is we have this battle and we don't want to take away design space or participation space for those who are not going for this thing, but we still want to provide a space for everyone to push for this award as well. And like you were saying with the dungeon for your high level volunteers, 100% behind service to the game kind of aspect to it. But at the same rate, that's just one dungeon for the day. Like, they have potentially opportunities to multiple other battle games. I don't know how you guys' events are structured in that aspect. So there's usually for us from Winter's Edge, there's like a quest that's an hour-ish or something, and then another battle game that or two that take slots up, so that you miss one, but you still have 2 other opportunities later in the day to showcase. So there's definitely, just like in Amtgard in general, there's a push and pull to everything.
I know for our dungeon day, I don't think that would entirely work. It's in the winter. It's in February, and it's an indoor location with a lot of setup and a lot of takedown. Usually to push all the teams through, because we usually have a ton of teams, like at least 14 or 15 usually, I think.
I think
it's a lot.
I want to say our highest was like 18 teams.
Yeah. And each team usually takes anywhere between like 45 minutes to an hour to go in, but you also have more than just one team going in at a time. Like they go ahead a couple of rooms, and another team goes in, keep on going that way.
Sounds like it's structured kind of like True Dungeon.
Yeah. So the last 2 years, Wait, it was the last 2 years. The last year we ran it.
Last-
I know that when I was Questocrat, which was the last time we ran it before COVID, it was True Dungeon style of you have X amount of minutes in this room, then you have to move on to the next room, and then the next room, and the next room. And it did make it really easy for our fighters because they had a fight, a 10-minute break, a fight, a 10-minute break. Made it easy. It also allowed us to use the same NPC for 2 rooms because they could kind of follow them and go with things, so that toned down. But it also let us get the most amount of teams through in the shortest period of time, which was not all day, which was amazing because I don't think prior to that we were like, hey guys, court starts in 5 minutes and we have 3 teams left. How do we fix this?
I think it would be very impressive if we got all the teams through a dungeon day, had enough time to take down and get a battle game in. Not saying it's impossible, but man, I would be surprised.
Some of the dungeons take a lot of setup, but that's part of Polaris' culture of dungeon days that we're like, we have all of the props. We want we had a full-blown wrestling ring in the last dungeon I ran. There was
awesome.
There was a working dungeon door with people behind, like the cage came up and down. What else was really interesting in
There's a lot of props.
We had a lot of puzzles. We had a bunch of props. There's a bunch of stuff. It was actually one of the I can't reach it. There's a Cthulhu puzzle we had as well. But like just like the crafters getting to create the puzzles and the sets and the props and everything like that, they have an opportunity to get owls or dragons or whatever. I think we should be looking at some of the battles to actually be potential options for Battlemaster or Knights of Battle, Orders of Battle. There we go.
Orders of Battle. There you go.
They'd be for Orders of Battle. Like if it's kind of almost a PvP fight, or is literally a PvP fight if you want to put that in your dungeon. Those are opportunities to show small team tactics, confined space fighting, which is super tactically annoying and problematic if you haven't fought in a small space before. I recommend doing
Especially if you have a bow.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Half of the game is figuring out what you can like not bring to the dungeon and what you can bring to the dungeon. Because if you bring an 8-foot polearm in a dungeon with 6-foot walls, you are not going to have a good time. But that's another part of the like planning over execution and on field abilities. So
one thing. Sorry.
Yeah, good.
Oh, one thing that was brought up. That Teflon brought up was using abilities within the dungeon to try to solve a few things as well. And this just kind of reminded me that I think one of the least used things in our rulebook is page 28.
Oh, quest abilities?
The good old, yeah. We run all these dungeons and quests, but I don't think, at least I can say, I don't think Dungeon Day has really utilized those.
Man, I literally could go on for a whole episode for those things. Like, legitimately.
They're great. Please use them.
No, we don't. But I've had like many like theory crafted things about how to use all of these things. But that's for a different thing.
I would love to hear it because I want to see those get involved more into things like dungeons or even like world quests, stuff like that. I think it'd be great.
Yes. I will stick around and talk to you.
On the path after dark, 45 hours later.
Yeah.
So the experience I had with those was I allowed them in the dungeon I ran for Icehaven, the Kingdom dungeon that was each park had to run, and only one team used them. I'm not sure if it was I didn't publish it enough, or people just aren't aware of what they do, so they just thought, like, screw it, I'll go on without it. But only one team used any of those abilities, and I will state, if you're not preparing for those abilities to be in your game, they could mess with you a bit, because, like, Speak with Dead, there's a preparation one, which lets you bring, like, potions or recharge something. There's some other ones.
I can't remember them off the top of my head.
They're really good in specific situations, and if you're not prepared for them, they could be a problem. But please use them. They're in our book.
Yes.
Somebody wrote them. Use them. Okay, so moving off quests, if we're looking at duchy, and we'll stick to duchy and grand duchy. So we're looking at like 35 to 80 people, I think, is the whole radius for duchy to grand duchy. Are there any concerns or things that specifically the champions should be looking for or trying to do to make this environment viable for lower level fighters? Because on a higher level,
Can Grand Duchy award?
it depends on your
usually.
kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I know in some kingdoms, duchies can award up to 7. In others, duchies can award up to 8. But I don't know, like for Grand Duchy and Principality, if it's something that
I think
can
there's
award
even
up to 10, and then it's with like a monarch approval, or
It depends on the kingdom.
I think there's even duchies that are only allowed up to 6. But
there's like 3, I think.
I don't know where it went. I had one, and now I don't know where it went. I found it. Okay, I went and read 2019 Kaporas to make a chart. I'll link it at some point, but most duchies are 8. Some of them are 6. Some of them are 7s. Grand duchies are 8s, 9s. There's a 10 for Golden Plains last time I checked, and 8s. So we're looking at between 6 and, I guess, to 10, technically. Yeah, we're going to be looking at paragons for some of these.
I think Paragon is specifically a kingdom level, though.
Depends on your kingdom.
Yeah.
Is it?
This is where,
no, I just want to make sure.
Our Kapora specifically says it is a kingdom level award. The book doesn't say it has to be kingdom level right now.
Yeah.
If that changes, great. If it doesn't,
we almost defined it as the first paragon you get with the Order of Battle is almost a duchy level award. I misspoke on the WAC one because at 8 is where we first see Paragon.
Mhm.
Yep.
And it's also still duchy class gaming, but any of the others becomes kind of kingdom level because you can't get them in duchy anymore. But at the same time, maybe it's 3 duchy. I don't know. It's kind of blurred lines in a way.
Right. This was one of the questions that I had Denny, our senator at the time, ask at Gathering of Crowns, which was, does this proposal provide the requirement that that paragons become a kingdom level award? And the answer is no. Your kingdom can still decide how paragons are handed out. Polaris has already made
I
the
remember
decision.
answering that now.
Yeah, Polaris has already made the decision a while ago, like a couple of years, that paragons should be kingdom level because we are super competitive when it comes to battle games. We're real competitive up here, but not every kingdom has that, and I am not 100% sold on every kingdom should have that, because after looking at maps and realizing that like Nine Blades and Viridian Outlands are like huge for there's nobody in between, like there's 4 hours between 2 closest parks. That is wild to me. I'm not sure if I want to require that someone travel 16 hours to go to their kingdom event to prove that they are a paragon when they and cross like national borders. That's asking a lot, honestly. Like, get your passport in order, that's a lot. But I do think there is a certain level, and I think that we're going to see it more as a standard. There's a certain level of skill that is required to be a paragon in our game. And I think we're going to see that standard become more obvious and more defined because of this proposal and this knighthood. It's not a proposal anymore. It happened.
Right.
As we're speaking, by the way, the decision to make Battle Knight a Sword Knight, I believe was supposed to happen. I'm not getting any updates on it, so I don't know if that happened or what happened with it. But if this comes out and it's all of a sudden under sword, great. If this comes out and it's still its own thing, great. I'm not going to update what's going on.
It doesn't change any of what we're talking about.
Exactly.
No. So if it's a silver trim or blue trim you're going for, great. We're talking about how champions and everybody else can help make this path get better.
Admittedly, I kind of hope if you get Battlemaster, blue trim would still be an option. But
I like the blue trim. I mean, I Paragon Bard first, so I do like the blue. Okay, so
blue on white looks cool. That's all.
It does look good. So if we're looking at Duchy to Grand Duchy level, we're talking between. I'm gonna pull up my freaking thingy. Between 30 and 60 people on the battlefield is the difference. Wow. CK actually requires 75 for a Grand Duchy. So between 30 and 75 people on a regular basis is your park. I would say not all of them are taking the field because that's super rare, but you're still looking at a potential of a 15v15 upwards of 30v30. What
big games?
Yeah, those are big games.
Yeah.
What are our champions going to have to start doing to compensate for allowing more people to shine during these battle games? Is it just multiple objections or multiple objectives? I can speak. Or is there something else we're going to have to be looking for?
Yeah. So I think multiple objectives, like in the earlier ones, like games that were like moving the heavy object or, 1 or 2 point kind of king of the hill kind of ones would suffice. I think as you get to those games, you'll need more objectives as well, or more, maybe slightly more advanced battle games. Like you could still maybe have a very heavy object style game, but your team is also fighting for different spawn points on the map, and you have to hold it for a period of time before your team can spawn there, or things like that. Or spawn 20 feet away from the point, so you're just pop spawning on people that are trying to cap it. Stuff like that. I think you'd see more of those. You could still, for some battle games, I'd still suggest running just 2 teams because that'll allow people to start, leading large unit teams, leading like those big teams, especially if they're in those higher ranks. Another thing that you can do is to still show small tactics for that, is to run battle games that have 3 teams, 4 teams, 5 teams, depending on how big it is. If you have 60 people on a park day, I could easily see like a 6 team, like you have 6 10-man teams out there if you have 60 people.
That is so many people for a park day.
Yeah, but just can you imagine that though? Like that many teams, all with like objectives and stuff like that.
It would feel like a kingdom event.
Yeah,
like a small kingdom event, but like a kingdom event.
I mean, speaking of which, though, I mean, we had 191 people at GAC, and for that first battle game, we had 5 teams, and I think each team had like 12 or 13 people on it to begin with.
True.
And that was a battle game that had multiple objectives. There were multiple flags that you could go and capture. You still had to actively be defending your flag, and you'd be gathering points, and even when you captured the point, it didn't disrupt the play of the game or disrupt other people because a reeve would grab it and run it back and reset the flag and record that you scored a point. So games similar to that is actually a pretty good example of what you could probably do to still show prowess on that field in multiple ways. You'd do a variety of different games to allow people that are going different paths to kind of shine.
Teflon, what's your thoughts on this?
I don't think it necessarily, it depends on how it's designed for sure, but the big thing becomes how many lines of engagement can you produce in this area or this game? Because the multiple lines of engagement, which is typically like multiple nodes or captures or something like that, or multiple objectives, allow teams to kind of break up, and you see smaller teamwork, like you were talking about. But I'm not sure that it's necessary to actually have multiple objectives, because somebody more clever than I am may come up with a way to do it. Perhaps it's like an island where the single flag objective is, but there's multiple ways to get in, and you have to go out a certain way or something along those lines, where it would still be one objective, but now you've drawn multiple engagement lines. So you have to defend or attack multiple lanes, be able to break. So I think that's really the thinking that's going to have to go forward on a design perspective on the kingdom level, or in not necessarily kingdom, I guess, because we're talking about duchy and everything, but large games, I guess. Again, like I'm very much against trying to handcuff game design, because I want them to be able to create cool things, and I don't want them to be. And this is actually one of the fear of a few people in Windows Edge for the Battlemaster thing, was that we would see more boring games, and it'd be just more capture the flag or more node capture, that it's not dressed up. There's not very much extra stuff involved in kind of taking the quote unquote soul out of the game or something along those lines, right?
Yeah.
So this is why I'm against handcuffing things, which brings, again, just back to Reeves and Champions and things where they have to watch some of these plays, because I don't know that the answer is to have every game be available to hit these awards, right? Similar to the tournaments. I guess in previous, because the update kind of made it to where this is a little less of a problem. But I don't know, like, this is where like the big meat of it becomes the possible actualization, where the fear that Battlemaster may negatively affect the game to some degree.
Right. I think we're looking at a potential either stalling or opportunity, and it depends on how your smiths look at it. Because if your smiths go, well, I just need to figure out how to make games that I can run on a regular basis that everyone knows, so that these battle masters can show off, or I need to come up with a better way or a more fun or more complicated game that is still very playable for everyone, so the battle masters can show off. I'm really hoping that a lot of our master smiths and upcoming smiths are looking at this as a giant opportunity to make these battle games that they've been like thinking about, but never really had the opportunity to run because it might be too competitive or it's too complex. And at these park days, at the bigger park days, you can try these things to make it more interesting, more varied, so that we aren't losing the soul of our game. We are playing with either multiple flags, or we're switching up a classic game. We're making something different. We're making it interesting, because that is ultimately the goal of every smith, is to figure out how to make a game that is fun and functional consistently, which, by the way, is super hard. Game designers get paid a crap ton of money to do it.
Absolutely.
Game designers get paid a ton of money, and our game designers go, I get a piece of paper and a nice smile. Let's go. So you should thank your smiths every time they come up with a game that you like, and tell them that you like it, because otherwise they won't get the feedback. So tell them that.
Well, we have also opened up another game design space for the competitive games, because we have now the class tournaments kind of defined in the Battlemaster as well. So while we've relied on Phoenix League because it's the best design that we have so far, that's not the end all be all for tournaments. Seems like we can do something along the lines of 4 horseman style tournaments or something, even class based. We can, like, the spawn mechanic is my favorite thing that came out of Phoenix League. Like,
that bench mechanic is great.
Yeah, it's so good. So looking at different spawn mechanics and smaller level games that are hyper competitive gives another outlet for Battlemasters to shine on kind of the Paragon personal prowess aspect of it. Regan had came up with a 1v1 spellcaster thing. Granted, it's limited because it's spellcasters only, but like that's another odd design space that people could be taking up somehow or another, deriving a 1v1 class game thing with interaction in the props or terrain or something that kind of helps even playing fields. This is like a really uncharted territory that I think our smiths can work with to help showcase Battlemasters as well as make different games that are new and fun that haven't been played before.
Yeah, I think we are looking at. I'm really hoping we are looking at a potential burst growth of different styles of battle games that we're all going
More
to.
innovation.
Yeah, more innovation, more challenges, different mindsets, different tactics. Like today, at ET, there was only 6 of us that took the field as class players. 7 if when the champion was filling in for something or whatever. But we had a 3v3 game where capturing the point was literally charging the point. You had to cast the charge in cant ×3 to capture the point. And that's a super simple change, but we could affect it with Song of Power. We couldn't affect it with like Confidence or anything because it's not a viable target. But you could figuring out how to like use the bards to help compensate things and balancing the difference between the bards being offensive or defensive to try to capture those points. It was a very simple change, very simple game, but it was wildly interesting to see how we decided to do things. And I think large scale games we're going to hopefully see these modifications of just like, we're doing capture the flag. There's only one flag and a specific person. I mean, that turns into Stratego, but it's like the same kind of thing. Yeah. We can pull from these classic games and figure out ways to make amazing games. And I'm really hoping that this is a burst.
It was posted, I don't know, I feel like it was like 2-3 years ago now, but I think it was Killer Queen is the game that it was based on. And that was really interesting. Like their post was way better than one I actually did, because I ran mine just on a jugging field basically because we didn't have that many people playing. But where you had 3 ways to win, so there was only really one objective to win, but there was 3 objectives that you were vying for. These are different design structures that we typically don't see in game. At least I don't see as often in games right now. So that's another design space that, while again it's multiple objectives, but it's only one objective to win, which causes your lines of engagement to be really interesting or potentially interesting.
Mm-hmm. So these I mean, I'm going to keep a close eye on duchy level champions for a while, because they are, and not just champions, anybody that runs games at any duchy level, any larger park, because this is their opportunity to really show off some of their abilities and their game writing skills before we go to a kingdom level event. Because kingdom level events, Polaris has 4 big events technically, with some like extras on the side. What does Winter's Edge have?
4 main, mid-range coronation, like most people. And then our quals were squashed, so we don't have the traditional tournament. So that's kind of a design space that's opened up for autocrat kind of positions as well.
Mm-hmm. So I think for the most part, the four standard events is gonna what our spaces are traditionally for kingdom level, but now that this competitive award, this award that kind of relies on the fact that we have good game designers, is out there. It is very aggressive. People want this award. I'm not saying it's aggressive in the idea of like but people want this award. I think we're going to see better battle games on a consistent level. And the internet is amazing. COVID was terrible, but it did do an amazing job of making sure all the kingdoms know about all the other kingdoms. So like, if you come up with a battle game, post that thing so other people can try it, they can play it, they can give you critiques. It's a small, simple battle game that gets posted can turn into Phoenix League literally is basically what we'd be looking at. You got a good design, you spread it, some people like it, you start talking with more people, they start liking it. You run into the thing that Woonjo started. Woonjo and his, I can't remember who else created Phoenix League. 2 people created Phoenix League, and now everybody knows about Phoenix League all over. You could do that as well. The other thing I want to hit on is when we start getting into, it's kind of a problem at Barony. I'm not sure if it's as much, but do we have to, as champions or game runners, identify competitive games so that like games that are viable for better levels, or are we are we gonna kind of just let people run crazy? Teflon and I talked about this a little bit before the show, so I'm gonna have him start on this.
Sure. I have, as the Battlemaster knighthood got passed, it and all of the this is going to create a toxic atmosphere. It's going to be very competitive. Not everyone wants to play a competitive game. They want to play to have fun, and things like this came up. My knee-jerk reaction was kind of like a chill and no chill aspect to battle games. So it would be denoted ahead of time what battle games are here to really show off, or what battle games are here to have fun and things like that. And I don't know if I truly stand behind that still, but it is definitely an approach that could work. I mean, this is kind of the real hard thing with the Battlemaster, because I don't want to take anyone's fun away in any way. And I think Jamie said it kind of interestingly that, like, once you get to a good skill level, it's harder to have fun at a lower level in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we run into the problem on the Battlemaster side, because if you're truly trying to, push yourself through, there's a point where local level may not be super fun, because you're trying to practice small levels of your game to bring to Kingdom. And when you go to Kingdom and there's only one battle game that you can compete in, that becomes a problem as well, which is, hard to quantify how much of a problem that's going to be, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I like the idea of stating some Kingdom level battle games are going to be chill or not chill. I think the idea of a Kingdom level battle game is you should be able to go kind of all out. Yeah, you should be able to go all out, assuming you have the numbers. I mean, there are definitely going to be Kingdom events you show up to and you're like, this is barely bigger than my barony or duchy or whatever. That's going to happen.
Right.
Sometimes it happens. But if you're at a Kingdom event that's like 100, 200, 3, I don't know how big some of these Kingdom events are. Spring War is 400 to 500 people on a regular basis. Keep on the Borderlands last year was 600 people. Castlemania was like 300. Rackus was
that was a fun event.
Yeah, Castlemania has an actual castle. If you are near Texas, go to Castlemania. There's a legit Cinderblock castle. Like,
or seriously fly if you want to experience it. Good event.
It's a good event. Feast of Mars for California normally gets a decent chunk of people. Rackus for Colorado normally gets it gets a pretty good 200, 300 people. There are going to be Kingdom events that are going to be big.
Banner Wars too.
Yes, Banner Wars. Finding those events are going to be, I think, important for our upcoming Battle Masters. But on a regular, I don't want to say everyday Kingdom level, but like a regular Kingdom level event, I don't know if I want to identify any of those battle games as non-competitive ones, unless they're like early on Thursday or Friday or something, so that it's a low amount of people. It's not really the time for you to stunt. I think that's something we should be aware of.
Or another good one is like Keep this year for Friday is just running pickup games. Pickup games that are full class, but they're pickup games.
Yeah,
I mean it's kind of in what it says there. Like I'm planning to go to Keep, and I'm going to participate in the Hammer God Cup, but during that, and then hopefully unless I get knocked out really early. But afterwards, if they're still running pickup games, I'll probably go there and like maybe just try out a new build, or continue working on my zero res healer build that I'm running, because it's really fun.
I love this idea.
But stuff like that. Maybe like look at who's also on the field. Because you can usually look at a battlefield and see who's all on it too. At a Kingdom level, though, I think another big part of that is where you should be able to go all out is game balance. Who's on the other side? Who's on your side? Hopefully, at a Kingdom level, you have a game designer, warocrat, Reeves, people who can kind of look at teams and gauge whether or not it's going to be a balanced team.
That is an acquired skill.
Yes, it very much is. And at park level, it does kind of come down to sometimes if you are one of those higher skill players, just reassuring like that that person at park, like, hey, we're not planning on like going all out. A good example, I'll also use Jamie for that one, was that he was like, Micah and I sometimes don't get to play together because they think we're just gonna wreck face, but really all we're gonna do is make up our own quest and screw around the entire battle game. Still fight here and there, but have a fun time that way, and develop their own fun that way. Which I'm not saying that's what you have to do if you're at a high level, but that can be one thing to also like, help out at a park level to build people up and still have a fun time at park.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like I said, let your game designer and the person at your park that day know, like, hey, I'm not here to go busting through. I'm here to chill, have fun, and just make it known. Like, be vocal about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think this is also like potentially a kingdom to kingdom issue, because there may be kingdoms that, because you guys are highly competitive in your battle games, whereas I would rate probably, just from, because I haven't traveled in V8 very often, but just a generic idea based on what I've read, comments and stuff like that from other kingdoms, I would rate Winter's Edge in like the B- range, where you guys are like in the A+ range for where your competitiveness and how like your metas and stuff have evolved go. So maybe it's a cultural thing, so that each kingdom needs to kind of examine where they're at on how they want to approach the kind of chill to no chill, like some other kind of aspect on it, and like, hey, we're not going all out for these types of games, but for these types of games, these are all out kind of deal or something. I'm not like, I don't have the answer for this one, because I feel like this is very much a cultural answer inside a kingdom.
Yeah, I think a lot of, as we get higher, we're not going to be able to give like possible solutions. We're going to give just ideas, and it's going to have to be a case by case scenario for each kingdom, each park, to figure out what they're doing, how they're going to run this thing. I mean, like, Ethereal Tides on a regular basis has 2 to 3 paragons on the battlefield. Great. If we have the Green Harbor boys, I'm going to call them kids because I like that name, but the Green Harbor kids, they're all older than me, by the way. They're all older than me. I just call them the Green Harbor kids because I like that. If they show up, they have 4 more paragons. So like the ET park goes from 3 or 4 paragons to 7 to 10 paragons, and if we have more people showing up, we can end up with having 50% of our players being paragons, and we're going to be super competitive and try to run each other over constantly, trying to show off. When those scenarios are coming up, team balance is important. Being aware of who you are casting or fighting against, I think, is going to be super important from an individual level, but from a game runner perspective, making sure people are aware of who's new, kind of, or who's not warlord level stick or paragon level casting, whatever. That balance is going to come into effect every single time. I don't have a good way to train balance. Like, I've thought a couple ways. I've run a couple ideas by some people, and they just don't seem to stick. It's a really hard skill to learn. Figuring out how to look at a team and analyze each member's potential skill is very tricky. It's easier to do on like a whole scale, because you can kind of do some basic judgments, like how much armor do they have, how many casters do they have, are they mostly offensive, do they have pole arms, some stuff like that is kind of basic, but like breaking down how to make it balanced is just going to take time, and you're going to struggle through it for a bit. We're going to open up discussion after we're a little bit, and maybe some of the people in the audience might have a better idea. I know we've got a Master Smith in there as well, so there might be some options. But from my perspective, I'm only 5 or 6 years in the game. It's hard to balance teams without just learning it. I don't know. Do you guys have any points on that?
Oh no, I agree 100%. Like, I'd say that I'm also a bit up there in balancing teams. So I still think there's room for growth balancing teams. I've been trying to balance teams since I'd say 2009, because I mean 07 and 08 was like when I first joined, and I was just go play, and then but it's a difficulty. Like, it is tough thing to do, but
Mhm.
I think the more you know about the game, especially the version of the game and how all the classes interact, and really being somebody who just knows your rulebook, or you can ask a player because you might think you have a balanced game, but if you look at me and I'm like, all right, well, Magnus is playing a healer, and Merrick is playing a healer, and there's another healer as well. All right, well, that's what Magnus on this team, Merrick and the other healer on the other team. Well, congrats, you just handed the team with no reses.
Mm-hmm.
As an example, that's a little bit of an outlier, but just things like that of maybe even knowing the spell lists that people have, or at least ask what archetype they're running.
Yeah.
Or ask like stuff like that, and that would help you balance teams even better.
Yeah.
That's what I've kind of learned in V8.
Teflon?
I mean, yeah, it's kind of a gut feeling on how you balance teams, at least how I have. And I'm not going to say that I do super well. I think I do okay. But it's like you said, the kind of generic thing, like, all right, well, this guy's a knight, and so is this other guy. Splitting these dudes up is really a good idea, and things like that. Like most of the general concept should be pretty obvious. Like trying to get equal-ish armor, trying to get equal-ish casters and things like that. But it's so hard because, like you were saying, if you're running the 0 res build versus someone who's a red res bot and it's some kind of shatter battle, then that's not an equal trade in any way. So
Can have to steal life a lot.
yeah. So it's pretty rough. Like it really, really is. And you almost have to rely on upper end players to self-balance to some degree. And that's where we run into problems with the new belt coming out, right? So it's an interesting thing that we're going to have to move forward with.
Yeah, I think this is where we're going to see the interaction between the Kingdom champion, or the champions of the parks, and those up and coming battle masters, the ones that are going for that. They're going to have to definitely start communicating better and being like, so I know my team has a big advantage, and it is better for me to tell the champion that than to ignore it and just let my team crush, because it's hard. Okay, so it's harder to find a shining star amongst a bunch of other shining stars than it is to see one all-star amongst a darker field. So if you make the teams more balanced, you should have more opportunities. That's kind of the way I see that. It's a little off in certain scenarios, but for the most part, you're going to have a better opportunity to shine if you are on a balanced field. Because it's really hard to tell who's doing what when the entire other team is dead and you guys are just walking the flag back. That's no fun. Nobody's getting points for that, really. But that's a cultural thing, and we're gonna have to work through. Do we have any more on like duchy, grand duchy size? We want to move on to kingdom size, kind of battle game complexities. I'm gonna take this. We're moving on to kingdom.
Yep.
So when we move up to kingdom, we hit the fun variable of how many people are showing up to this event, what kind of event size we're looking at. Are we looking at kingdom, inner kingdom? Are we looking at, is this a roleplay heavy event? Is this a heavy battle game event? Is it a theme? There's a lot of different, they're not quite restrictions, but variables that you have to take into effect when you're building your battle games. But we also now get to add in the idea of autocrats and warocrats while they're designing events and spaces. And we've kind of talked about larger battle games and being creative and things like that, and touched on a little bit of the tournament. I think we're going to have to start compensating for a class level tournament of some sort once a reign, potentially. How that's going to be run, I think, is going to be interesting. I know up here we did a Phoenix League season with 4 or 5 teams, And during the championship for Polaris, which was MAME
2019.
Yes, MAME 2019. We had 3 teams compete. And our Good Game Academy, which was like our best team, it was all paragons and good fighters and good tacticians, crushed. Just won straight up. I'm not sure if that kind of mentality is going to be... Well, how do you guys think that, like, are we going to want to see class level tournaments as small teams that are scheduled to work together? Or are we going to want to see how well people work together on kind of a random setup? Like, we're going to start looking at how do we make fair small team battle games with a limited population? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's a few different ways that you can attack this. One way that you can look at it is this would be something that could happen once we bring everybody up to par with who gets what order of battle.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of an idea that I had floating around, but I'm perfectly fine sharing it here, obviously. So when the day begins, you see who's all playing the game, and it would be a class battle gaming kind of tournament design layout. And you can say it's going to be 10-man teams, 5-man teams. You can actually kind of decide right there at the tournament. Reason why you see how many people is going to enter and how many teams you want. If 20 people enter, well, then it'll very likely be teams of 5. Otherwise, it's just going to be a big old one-on-one. You get 50 people, all right, maybe still run 5 teams, now 10. Or maybe you do run 10 teams, but you make it double elim.
Mm-hmm.
What you do is you number and bracket people. So you'd take maybe the 9, 10, and masters, put them in a group. This 8, 7, 6, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do to make that team then is you pull a name from your 9, 10 master, you pull a name from all those other groups, and that's your team. So it will be 5 people that you probably don't work with often.
Mm-hmm.
Or you might have one person that you work with often, or might not. But then it's up to you as a team to determine what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what roles does your team like to fill, and actually create a 5-man right there on the spot. A good preparation for that would just be able to have a spell list ready for any spellcasting classes that you're proficient in and you're comfortable in, and different builds for them. And if you're comfortable playing armor, maybe you bring your armor along too, and just be ready to fill what your team needs to fill. And that's what a successful team would do. You might have some teams where people are like, no, I'm playing this, and well, that's up to the rest of your team to determine that as well. That's just an idea I had floating around, which would be a way to still make a balanced team, but also have a random effect of you're going to be playing with some people that you might not have played with.
Right.
Either way you look at it, I do see this eventually evolving to some kingdoms, if not most kingdoms, having at least one event or one day out of an event kind of being dedicated to a battle gaming tournament of sorts, whether it be Phoenix League, whether it be a Bridge Wars style event, whether it be a Banner Wars style event. And you can maybe even run 2 or 3 fields at once too then, and have reeves on each of those.
If you've got smaller teams, you could run hopefully more at the same time. Yeah. So you're not taking up a whole day with like one match every hour or something like that. That takes forever.
Yeah, definitely shouldn't. So I think that would be a good way for kingdoms to kind of bring in this class battle gaming tournament. Like I said, it doesn't have to be Phoenix League. It's the primary example. It's a very well-designed game.
Mm-hmm.
But for those that might have a little bit more of a distaste toward Phoenix League, I'm not sure how Polaris as a whole really feels about it. But like you said, we had 3 teams at MAME 2019.
Yeah, we I mean, it's hard to see. I like the idea of the randomization teams because that shows general tactician ability over like I have tactical ability with these 3 people or whatever.
Randomization while still keeping a relatively equal skill as well.
I like that because it definitely turned people away from playing Phoenix League when we had one all-star team that was, I mean, real hard to beat. To be honest, they took second on the world championship for Phoenix League, and they did well. Like, they did a good job there. It's hard to say, hey, we're a big enough, bad enough kingdom to have two of those. That's real hard. That's real hard for any kingdom to say. If you make an all-star team, it's an all-star team. Can't beat it. Have you had any experiences of? I mean, you guys jug and do small team competitive a lot more than we do up here, Teflon.
Yeah, so we actually did something. This was many years ago. We called it a non-relational jugging match, and we didn't do it in the skill aspect, but you could not be a member of the same park, household, or fighting company or anything like that to the best of our ability and split everybody up. And it was a giant mess of random amazingness for that day. So we have done something similar, sort of, and I think it will lead to it. And this conversation kind of touches on something we talked slightly about earlier on, and at what point do we say, because I don't know fighting company culture up in Polaris, right? Around Winter's Edge, it's more or less dead. Like, we definitely have multiple fighting companies, but we don't really provide games that they can compete as a company very often in, such as Phoenix League on a kingdom level or something like this, right? So at what point do we say a person leading a small group or a large group of a fighting company is on equivalent level to someone who's doing the same thing but with random people? Because that's kind of important to some degree, right, on these upper levels. So, using a company to kind of boost somebody to a higher award becomes, I guess, a possible negative to it, but I don't necessarily see it as that's just playing the game, in my opinion. But I can see where people are trying to could say that, right? So I really like your idea, Magnus, like, a lot. Part of it is because, like, I remember that non-relational jugging day very fondly, and part of it is just I think it's a pretty well thought out idea on trying to create a good environment of competitiveness while not stacking decks or stuff like that. So I think that's really important as well. But at the same time, this is another design space that's opened up that maybe we bring back fighting company culture to some degree, and this allows them to have a space to compete in against each other. But I think that's going to largely depend on your fighting company culture of your kingdom or what they want to try and foster. So,
I know I'd be a merc for hire up here in Polaris.
Yeah, like, I think Rising Winds has the Steel, which is like the captains of all the fighting companies.
I think
for that.
Iron Mountains also does.
And so having a structure like that may allow for, like, a one-day event where maybe it's not the event that, like, the average Joe goes to as often, or maybe they go and they understand be a part of a militia merc team or something like that, and then go and compete and just have as much fun as they possibly can in a very competitive environment, similar to how some kingdoms do weapon masters or something, right, where it's the whole day basically, and that's everyone knows
a day of
that
games.
Yeah.
So
again, I just think that this adds more to the game in general, but it does make the idea of detracting, because now people are split between going to an event or making this tournament day or something like that potential. So it is something I think we have to be careful about.
Yeah, I almost want to just encourage kingdoms to make another event. Like, we have Weapon Master, Dragon Master, make team battle game day. I don't know, something that's specifically for this hyper competitive environment at high levels. Because if we are wanting to try to avoid, like, the all outs, like, go all out at every kingdom event, at every kingdom battle, creating those spaces will definitely mitigate that. Probably a very large amount. I mean, if you have a space that's like, hey, if you're going for 8, 9, 10 without getting the paragons, or even with getting the paragons and, like, tagging things in, these are the events to go to. We run 2 of them a year, 1 of them a rain. They're big, they're heavy, and they're going to test you to the best of your abilities. Go show off there, and I think we're going to see kind of a similar effect of what we see at Weapon Master, Dragon Master, where we still get people that want to just fight, but they're not the top tier fighters we're expecting or watching the competitiveness. But we're going to see those. We're going to see the Paragons showing up. We're going to see these top Battlemasters showing up. We're going to see these people taking those opportunities to really show what they've got against people of higher or equal calibers, so that they can keep accelerating through this list. That is a lot to ask for some kingdoms, especially when running a whole event costs like a bunch of money for them. So,
and I will say again, like you're saying, it's opening up a lot of opportunities, and I do think another great opportunity. I know I said it before is there might be some award opportunities for people who do just take video of the whole entire game. Like that should be an award opportunity all on its own. Like recognize the people that are making everybody's lives easier, so you can like look back and say, "Hey, I heard about this cool thing that happened. Oh, we actually have it on tape too."
Yeah. Award rec your photographers and videographers, because
yes, please.
Oh God, they do so good work. I mean, how many of you? Okay, here, if you have used a photo from someone at an Amtgard event as your Facebook photo or background, you have to recommend them. That is a requirement. That is what you have to do. That's a complete tangent, but do it, because seriously, holy crap!
I think it's one well worth to have in pretty much any video, though. To be honest, because like these people, several of them are taking very professional level photography. We have 2 people in Winter's Edge off the top of my head that are taking very, very good photos, and we need to do better about recommending them and things as well. But so please look at those people as dragons and other things as well, service or
something, because it's I mean, it's a lot of work to take video and photo and put it through processing and getting it all the way you want, and then putting it out. It's a lot. But recommend them. Do we have any more? Do we think we want to hit on this kind of like autocrat, champion, monarchy kind of larger game sets? Or do we want to open this up to everyone jumping in?
I will just like to say, since we're on the topic of mentioning people who are doing photography, video, stuff like that, and calling them out, we do have somebody in this chat as well who's been very, very good at taking photos, even at Park Day. Dahlia is in here.
Good job. Take more photos. Take more video.
Dahlia's doing a great job at taking photos, video. Posted all the GAC stuff that she's taken. Really well done.
Yes, keep doing it, because it's awesome.
They've taken apologies.
We definitely recommend. I mean, if you use any of the photos, please just recommend that person. Also, if you're going to use it in any like professional sense or like advertising stuff, get their approval first, because that's another professional thing. But do we want to open this up to the people in the discussion? We can open discussion about a bunch of this stuff. All right.
Yeah, I'm down. I just want to reiterate, like, I really think with this one is we need to rely on our Reeves, and I think that they need to somewhat know they're going to be relied on to see some of this.
That is another.
Those notebooks
aspect.
are a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. Somehow to I mean, even just your phone, taking notes on your phone as a Reeve like that, if you've got would be just fine.
I think we opened up a new belt line, and we opened up a new night path, and in so doing, we made opportunities for smiths, for Reeves, for autocrats and champions. We've given more opportunities to the game as a whole. We just have to realize that they're there and take advantage of them. Okay.
Recommend your Reeves.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, recommend your Reeves. If someone Reeves for you,
please,
because they're taking their time to like watch you play a game, or
they're
yell
watching
at you.
You have the fun.
Yeah. Sometimes I can see it.
I guess they're having fun too.
Just watching a bunch of people beat each other. Okay, so y'all should be able to unmute yourself pretty by yourselves, I believe. If not, Cena, could you fix that and then can unmute anybody. Do any of you guys have questions, comments, discussion about Battle Game Night from like a autocrat champion, whatever position ideas? Can people unmute? Is that not working?
People should be able to unmute.
Cool. Thank
however
you,
they
Cena.
need to.
Okay. So, does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
If for some reason you can't mute, but you unmute and you do want to speak up, just type in the classroom chat, please, and we can troubleshoot. But all of you should have full control at this point.
Should very much. I know before we were talking about specifics at GAC of what. Well, I'll tag this in. So Saturday night of GAC, Magnus, Vitalin, Cena, and myself were sitting around talking about opportunities to show off at that event, because it was a quest event, and there was 2 battle games. One was at level 1, one was at level 6. And
technically the one against the monsters in the middle of the day, but
true.
that was
There was also that one.
and you could still show them that because there's people that went around and killed their spawn points.
Yes. We were talking about how it worked and different things that we were kind of looking out for. Also things that we were a little disappointed we didn't get to show off and try to make this new Battlemaster path like really show off during that event. But as we just discussed, we kind of did have that opportunity, and there were those opportunities, but we weren't necessarily paying attention to those specific abilities. Like I can think of Glace. Yes. Glace?
From the Frostlands?
Yeah, Logan.
Yeah, Glace.
Yeah. I went up against him several times. He made a couple good tactical decisions moving around me or choosing who to team up to go against me, because I was playing a barbarian. I had points of armor. I had a shield. I had a long weapon at one point. He was making decisions and trying to call for assistance and making sure that somebody could deal with me, because I had already shown that I could kill 3 or 4 members of his team before getting actually murked. So he was doing a great job showing that off. And that's I think a perfect example of low level use of tactics. I didn't get to see him use any of his abilities, so that doesn't give him towards any of the awards, but it does make the opportunity show that he has the ability to be tactical. He's just got to use his abilities for it.
And kind of echoing that, and something that I had mentioned in the classroom chat earlier when Magnus was talking about, Vitalin provided this excellent backup to me getting the flag. Again, we talk about autocrats, warocrats noticing these things, Reeves, but again, we always have to remember, as players, we are on the front lines. We are literally watching these happen. If we see a cool thing happen, we really need to take that extra step and walk up to a Reeve or walk up to their monarch and say, hey, this awesome thing happened. I want to make sure you're aware of that, because a lot of times I think we run into that in Polaris, in which we have a nasty habit that we're working on of we just assume somebody saw it and we never bring it up, and then it never gets recognized.
I'll go in so far as we assume certain people have certain awards.
Yes.
Just today, there was a battle, order of battle committee meeting today where we were talking about where we think, where we are recommending people in Polaris to get awards. And all of us in the chat were like, hold on. Timmick got his Paragon at a park level? That's not right. That's not right. He's a kingdom level Paragon at least. We were all amazed. We were just like, that's not right. That's not how this works. And he got it at a park level, but he is 100% reaffirmed it as a kingdom level Paragon. Like, that don't go assuming what someone has. Yeah, we were just like, no.
I know a couple people at my park, and I don't see any of them in chat, so that I can at least be vague with this, where it has become clear over the last year that, like, I just assumed they were at 5th, 6th level warriors, and I looked at them like, you guys haven't even gotten your 4th. This needs to get fixed. Absolutely. Because again, even though I've been in and out of office, nobody pointed it out to me.
Right. Don't assume what level someone, and that goes back to what we talked about earlier. If you see something, say something. It doesn't matter what it was or what level you think it should be. Just tell somebody that's going to report it, because that's the opportunity for them to upgrade, because people may look at them and be like, they definitely have above this. I shouldn't recommend them for a 5th. They're definitely playing at a 7th, but they haven't got that. Just tell.
Or, like, look them up in the orc real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just seriously, like, you have a phone on you. Grab a phone, look at orc, and see what it is. If you're in an area with no service or little service, definitely not our last GAC site. Write it down and look it up when you get home. Then.
Yeah.
I mean, if all y'all just had Verizon, you would have been fine. Just saying.
That last GAC event was like impressive levels of we do not have an internet connection. Like as soon as we stepped foot into that park boundaries, gone. Big old X in the upper right corner of my cell phone.
Verizon.
So if you see something, say something. And
yes.
So this is something we didn't hit on because it doesn't really apply to the top, like the exact topic we're talking about, but kingdoms are doing different things with how they're awarding, if they're going through the records and checking and seeing who they think gets an award, and to what point. Polaris had a set of guidelines where CK just went, if you have had these things in the past of any time at all, we're giving you this. And they made like 30 Battlemasters 2 weeks ago. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing. I'm just saying that is one of the options that happened. But that's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of awards handed out at one event. Whatever your kingdom's doing, somebody might have got overlooked. Somebody might have, something might not have been recorded right. Whatever. The orc is not perfect because it is run by people. We're not perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like there's somebody who's, they might have had an older Paragon, which would have been a Masterhood that didn't make it to the orc, and now they're working right now to try to show that they have it.
Right.
But, I mean, there's things like that. Like, make sure you also, like, for you as a player, if you get an award, give your PM some time, but still check it a bit later and make sure that gets entered.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely check your own records. That was a big problem back in the day.
Or have every single physical copy of all of your awards that you've ever gotten and make sure that you hold on to it. The talent isn't in here for me to make fun of him, but still, I saw his stack of awards.
That was
thick
fun.
Stack.
It was literally like an inch thick. He's like, these are every award I've ever gotten.
Yep.
I was like,
I think I have most of mine thanks to my wife.
Yeah, Charlie, I'm sitting next to my filing cabinet right now, where all of mine and Lyra's awards live.
I'm a really naughty person, and I think I only have awards that are 8 or higher, and all my other ones, like when I was moving out, I was like, man, some of these got water damage, some of these got like messed up, and I was like, this is a whole nother thing that I have to move, and we're on the final day of moving, and I was like, fuck it.
it's out.
If people argue it, I'll get it back. But
So-
I'm not doing that anymore. I got a nice, fresh filing cabinet with manila folder that's going to be filled up with those.
Mm-hmm. keep track of your awards. I am normally not a huge advocate of advocating for yourself for awards. I think you should be able to ask details on why you didn't get it, and I think you should be able to have that open discussion with your monarch. But with the way that Battle Knight and the Orders of Battle work, it is probably best to kind of recommend yourself, like, hey, I did this thing, I thought it was really cool, but then give sources. Because
or references or something, so that
Or even so, like if you're trying to go on like a Paragon route, talk to your Paragons. Preferably, go for the ones of the class that you're like moving toward. But even then, like, Paragons of another order could still very likely tell you what you're doing right and wrong because they have to face the Paragons of your order.
Yeah.
And
Just-
even on top of that, make people aware that you are trying to walk that path, so people do pay closer attention to you.
I would say, and I mean, a couple of people in this chat have come to me and been like, "Hey, I'm going for this Paragon. Please watch for what I'm doing, and then give me any critiques." And it is.
I know I've told you that.
Yeah, like it is a thing that I take very seriously. But I think pretty much every Paragon loves to do it. Also, I'm not generalizing Paragons here, I don't think, but we all really like to talk battle games. So just come talk to us, and we'll be like, "Do you have 45 minutes? We're going to talk about the benefits of a left flank versus a right flank on capture the flag." Like, we will do that if you have the time.
I actively get confused. I actively get confused when I'm talking to a Paragon and they don't want to just sit there and chat about their class for 8 hours. Like, what's going on, guys?
I'm telling you, man, left is always right for flanks. Left is always right.
It's definitely, if you're having concerns, you're having like questions or whatever, just go talk to. I mean, now we have an entire other ladder system you can look at. Like, you don't have to just look at Paragons. You can be like, "Oh, he's a 7th order of the battle." Go talk to them and be like, "Yo, I'm having a hard time getting my warrior skills to like work past X caster or whatever. What are some things I can do?" And they're probably going to be able to answer you those questions.
And also, you going and asking questions of these people is also helping them show things as well.
Yes.
Because a good example of a Paragon is somebody that you should be able to go to and ask questions.
Mhm.
And even if you're not a Paragon, a good example of somebody who's a knight or working toward that path of knighthood is somebody that you can trust to go and ask questions, pick their brain, have solid advice given back to you. So while they're helping you grow, you're also helping them grow into the role that they're very likely trying to obtain. And, as that person that has been giving, like, if that person has been giving you advice and really helping your game and, you have improved from their advice, just as we said before, let people know that person mentored you, trained you, helped you, was able to give you critical feedback that you were able to work on to improve your game. Because they likely should get not likely, they should get recognized for that too. Because they're taking, their time then to improve the game in their own ways.
Yes. I think another thing we could do, if you're getting stuck with in the Smith path, you're not coming up with as many ideas as you think you are or you want to, or you're not sure how to challenge the high level orders of the battle at your park, going and asking them like what they would like to see from a battle game, or like a tactic they would like to try. Like, I legitimately had an idea. I wanted to see what would happen if I threw 3 teams in a circle and changed the objective on a rapid basis. Like, every 2-4 minutes, the objective would change locations, and the teams would have to figure out how to compensate and change up for all that thing. I wanted to see how that worked. So I built a battle game around it, and it went really well at keeping the Borderlands. You can do that same thing. If you're getting stuck, go ask somebody that likes battle games and be like, "Hey, is there a weird tactic or idea or something you have?" And I will figure out how to make something around it. Like, if you want to see, because Amtgard does this terribly. We are bad at line fighting that twists. We're really bad at that, because normally as soon as someone starts flanking, the side crumbles. We're bad at line fighting, essentially, is what it comes down to. But if you want to see like the whole toilet bowl like twist that Belagarth has on a regular basis, build a battle game around it. Figure out how to make that happen. It's it's your oyster. Any other comments, questions, personal attacks against myself or my podcast, I guess?
I'm just going to say I hope I'm not as sunburnt as I am the next time I'm on one of your podcasts. Because,
you are a
I
little
was
red.
at the Ren Fair yesterday. A little, yeah, that's a word for it. A little red. Yeah, no, there was Ren Fair yesterday, and I applied sunscreen twice, and yeah.
Charlie, you are a pretty white boy.
That's putting it lightly. Thank you.
So One thing that I actually popped into my head while you guys were talking earlier that I wanted to bring up would probably be Teflon when you were talking about potentially flagging at like Kingdom events and stuff like that, flagging certain games as, guys, we're going to take this one casual, or okay, this is your competitive one, just to just give people the heads up. My one concern, I was wondering if you had thought about this at all, would that be then further dividing your attendance of those battle games?
Yeah, I kind of gave it a little bit of thought because it does have the potential to do that, right? Like, it's rough in a way, right? Because you can kind of equate this to tournaments, right? Like, we have some people who participate who aren't high caliber, but they add to the attendance of the tournament.
Mhm.
But you have other people who are skipping it because they're like, I could never win or I could never do well in this tournament, so I'm not going to play in it. Which it still has the same kind of connotation in the chill and no chill aspect of it too. But again, I think this largely depends on the culture inside your kingdom. For this one, I hate going back to that kind of non-answer. But it's something that you're just going to have to try, I think, and find out if that's going to be the case for your kingdom, or even your park.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It can even easily apply at Barony or Duchy level park games or something. If your park is tentative to the idea of a competitive game, then this is a way to dip your feet into it as well. So maybe it's a learning tool and not so much a division.
Sure. And even as much as you say it's like a non-answer, one thing that I definitely learned over the last year and a half, 2 years doing some of the V9 focus groups, and I know I've talked to Merrick about this a couple times, it becoming a hard realization of how wildly different Amtgard, especially battle games, can be from one kingdom to one kingdom to one kingdom. People bringing up concerns that Polaris had solved years ago, or problems up in Polaris that nobody's ever heard of, and there's just very little crossover, and it's hard to all come to a consensus when you're playing game A and we're practically playing game B.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, the V9 discussion stuff is where I think that I learned that Winner's Edge isn't as high as they want to feel like on the like competitive skill on battle game abilities and things like that. The most, and then also listening to this podcast as well helped out as well. Like there are aspects that we picked up on, but there's many aspects that we just never really picked up on completely. And it's just, I think that we're a little isolated within ourselves, whereas you guys, I think, can pull from your kingdoms, which gives you kind of a interesting test group for that.
Polaris kind of specifically said we are a limited space. Like, we are, our bylaws technically state we are Wisconsin and Minnesota, and that is our boundaries. And we've picked up parks in Illinois and Iowa as well. But those have been like, they have decided to join us. We kind of just said like Wisconsin and Minnesota are where we live. Which worst case scenario means we drive 9 hours across the entire thing if we really want to go far. But that does also mean that we can travel to Rising Winds, 13 Roads, Rivermore. If you're crazy, like me and some of my friends, we'll go to Iron Mountains, CK, Wetlands, Emerald Hills. Like, people will take the time to drive if you really want to do. Yes, or use if you have the money, use the plane. Amtgard is not flush with rich people, though, so not all of us take planes everywhere.
We're a kingdom in which there are people that consider 5 hours a day trip if they really want to.
Yep.
I consider it that. I don't like it. I still consider it that.
Consider it. Yeah, it's all about individual culture. The thing that I've noticed talking in the focus groups on this podcast with different Paragons, different players, metas and where you think your skill level as a kingdom is very dependent on who is there. There are specific metas in like CK that Polaris were like, we've moved on past that, but we've never had to deal with the problem of a sword knight with a bow that's also really good with a bow. Like, that's never been one of our problems. Jamie's back now, so it is a problem again. But, like, we've never run into that problem that, hey, this archer is also a warlord, and if we don't figure out how to deal with him, we have a problem. That's never been something on our radar, so we've never stopped at that point to, like, figure it out. We just moved past. I know metas build differently depending on what your kingdom's doing, and there are certain metas you can see and tactics like the catch and release tactic, kill combo spells like Ice Ball and Shatter. There are things that are going to go through everything. But like specific class combos, certain classes being more dominant is all really dependent on who's in your kingdom doing what and how your teams take the field.
I mean, the metas will change up a bit too, like you said. GAC had one wizard until the final battle game.
Yeah.
Which was super weird for our
One.
compared to
One
last year's.
wizard. One. Just one.
Well,
And then,
I mean, our show-off Paragon Wizard was playing Paladin because he can.
But I mean, dang. At least he got a lightning bolt, or as we called it, a smiting bolt.
Yeah, because he had Thor's hammer. Oh my god.
So he got it through Thor's hammer, which was a relic for our clan, but then the physical hammer broke.
Oh, that's right.
So he was allowed to keep the lightning bolt that came from the hammer, but he just couldn't use the hammer at that point because it needed to get repaired.
That is unfortunate.
Oh, he made work with that lightning bolt.
I would imagine he was a paladin.
So much work.
He had 4 points of armor and a sword and board and a lightning bolt. I would kill for a lightning bolt in that situation.
Right.
But yeah, the last Shepard came in as wizard for the final battle game, but that was so weird walking onto a field that only had 2 wizards. It was like, there's so many more shenanigans I can do with this. like holy cow.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll see how that changes in our next event. Like, I think a lot of people came out and they're like, I want to try Paladin, anti-Paladin. And we'll see how that settles out when it's been open for a bit longer.
I mean, the meta of your class division may end up being changed slightly because of that too.
Yep.
Bards become a little more problematic with the paladin and stuff like that. So, or the other way around.
Yeah.
Run away.
Yeah. So it's going to be, that alone is going to be a change that's really interesting, even though the 2 classes are demonstrably worse than most of the others, I think. But the weird interactions that they cause is going to be the deciding factor,
Yeah. Because I mean, I know Merrick and I, we've had this discussion definitely before, in which I think Paladin needs a little extra something going into the next edition, but they are also a prepackaged class that tells bards that they just don't get to have fun outside of shoving a stun. So,
I mean, Polaris has had a surge of bards. We've been surging more and more bards for a little while, because we found out that, like, their Aws, their CCs and stuff like that most of the time are just terrible to deal with. If you have control of the CC, you win the game. And now that we have a class that's literally immune to the best CC that Bard has, I think we're going to see a different change. It'll be interesting. We'll see. I mean, and these are things that you're going to have to try to figure out with balance. If you're throwing 3 paladins on one team and 2 bards on the other, you are hamstringing that bard team, because those paladins have A, more armor, B, immunities to most of the bard spells, and C, they have access to poles. Bards don't get nothing that long.
but then on the flip side of that, this getting back to our discussion towards people becoming paragons or people getting their Battlemaster, keep an eye out for those bards who are then going up to their teammates and say, hi, I'm going to be your best friend. Your job as my best friend is to keep that paladin away from me, and I will help you with everything else.
Yeah. That wizard or druid with flame blade. Actually, that's a discussion of a different time. But I think the meta is going to change. I think Gift of Fire is going to become more important. But that's a different story. Do we have any more comments or concerns about the Battle Knight, how we're planning and growing it within our game from a leadership position?
I actually have one question for the panel, actually.
Yeah,
With the creation of Battlemaster, do you think, and of course the Knight path at that point, do you think Paragon becomes more of this is somebody who's just raw skill good at this class, or do you still look for the mentorship aspect? Because normally in the past, the mentorship aspect has been associated with knighthood, but it's always been a thing that was supposed to have been a thing for Paragon. Do you expect that more, less now, about the same? Kind of, how do you think those two interact?
Yeah, so mentorship for getting up to like Battlemaster and mentorship for getting up to Paragon. So I see mentorship for Paragon still being a thing. You should still be able to teach your class effectively. You should still be that pillar of knowledge for people to go to. And I think that in turn is actively helping and prepping you for things that we look for somebody in knighthood. Like it is already displaying some knightly qualities, like baked into the Paragon, actually, which I kind of wish more award systems were similar to that, and to some degree. Like it's difficult because there's no rewards that directly relate to that, and Paragon absolutely does.
Mhm.
But I think the difference between a Paragon, explaining how they work with things versus a battle master or somebody like that is a battle master should also be able to explain the tactics of the field, should be able to explain more in depth, not just their class, but also how to interact with other classes, even while it's playing other classes. They should have a bit more well-rounded knowledge of the game and be able to share that with people. Like if you tell a battle master, hey, this is what the team, this is what the game looks like. This is what the layout is. Here's the team size. What would you do in a situation like this? They could still delve into their Paragon hoods and be like, well, if I was a healer, I would do this. If I was a bard, I would do this. If I was warrior, here's how I'd act. Or, they could even ask, what class are you going to play? And then still be able to break down how they think the game would go depending on team comp and what the tactics are to achieve victory. So that's a little bit of the difference that I see. Like I said, the TLDR, Paragon's very focused on how their class can work with things, whereas Battlemaster should be able to give a bigger picture to things as well, not just entirely class related.
Mm-hmm.
So Winter's Edge had a small discussion about, and I brought up Katz's 3S theory, and we kind of added a fourth one that's kind of a silent S of sportsmanship.
Uh-huh.
But the schooling aspect, if you're talking about it directly as a mentorship in the sense of 1v1, right? That I think allows more space in the Paragon with the idea of the apprenticeship and stuff like that to kind of be a little more focused on a singular person or a singular couple of people. Whereas the Battlemaster at night, if your kingdom's culture for knighthood is also a teaching culture, maybe offering more than just a singular kind of aspect, maybe a class or something along those lines. Like, in a way, we have developed a knighthood that has 3 masterhoods built into it as a possibility. So it is an interesting layout, and I like it. It's different, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's different in terms of like martial gaming, because I mean, there's multiple masterhoods for all the other routes, but there isn't one for the other martial belt, which is sword.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I can say that now because the vote failed.
Okay. We got the official here.
So
Yeah.
live update, it is staying a 5th belt for now, at least.
Yeah,
Get that blue trim ready.
To table it.
It's
so,
tabled. Yeah, it's officially
failed
tabled.
and then tabled.
I believe it was tabled because they almost didn't have quorum. So
They had 20 people.
oh, they did get enough. Okay,
They had 20. They had to pass unanimous.
Yeah,
And
it took them a while, but maybe there'll be more information.
Great.
Check out
Okay.
multiple podcasts to find out.
There's a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff. Okay, so I have gone back and forth on the idea of paragons and knighthoods requiring teaching or education of some kind. I have kind of landed currently, because my ideas are going to continue to change. My current standard of it is teaching is the process of passing on your knowledge to someone, and it doesn't have to be in a group setting. Like, the idea that we've had a lot is like, you got to teach classes, you got to run up whatever, you got to do this thing, whatever. You got to pass it on, is my mentality of it. So if you're hoarding your information, I think you're doing a disservice to the game. And Paragon and Knighthood should be held from you, because those are representations of people who are willing to better the game, kind of at all costs. So I know on the Whack podcast, you guys talked about Warlord Gun, who's going to soon be Sir Gun.
Yep.
He does terrible classes. He is bad at teaching classes, but he is great on one-on-one. If you go and ask him questions, he will teach you how to do. If you see him do a shot, he'll teach you how to do that shot. He'll teach you like things you could modify better. That's great. In a class setting, he's not good. And I don't think everyone should be required to be a teacher, like in a class setting. Because my mom was a teacher. That shit's hard. Like, I'm not asking every night to be a classroom teacher. Just pass on your information. And I think Paragon should be the same. It's just in a very specific, narrow aspect of their game.
Yeah. I mean, I know I kind of hinted at that being the idea from my perspective, but that's not actually. I share your just a possible distinction that could be made, but it's not one that I necessarily want to make, if that makes sense.
I'm fully blown going to make it. As long as you pass on your information, you're good. Keep doing it.
Yeah. Oh no, I meant as teaching class.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to go start a podcast to do this.
No, you do not have to do that.
I've dropped real world money for this shit. I really enjoy it.
I don't want to talk about how much money Lucas and Blows dropped. It's bad.
There's a large there's a 16 terabyte hard drive, something like that. Dear God.
My eyes glaze over when they get into tech talks about stuff. So
right.
I don't know for sure.
To teach and pass on your information, you just have to teach and pass on your information. Just let other people know. They ask questions. They want to know something. They want to talk tactics. They want whatever. Just pass on. It'll be fine. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Personal attacks on my new podcast space. If not, which it looks like we're good. I'm gonna close out the podcast there. So Digital Merrick, Recorded Merrick will roll us out, and thank you all for coming.
This podcast was filmed in front of a live studio audience.
There's no studio, unfortunately. You guys all just can't come to my house.
Thanks for listening to another episode of On the Path. If you liked what you heard, please give us a like or subscribe on YouTube or Spotify. And as always, see us in the comments if you have questions, comments, concerns. And remember, stay on the path.